This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
So this is a really great treat, Mark Hyman, Dr. Hyman, to see you again. You are an American physician, but you're also an 8 times best-selling author, right, of the New York Times?
Yes.
I mean, and you're a columnist for the Huffington Post. You've been on the Katie Couric show. And you're the medical advisor to Bill and Hillary Clinton, is that right?
No.
It's a little bit here and there. It's always good to get some advice. If I call you, can I get some advice?
I teach people how to live well and eat well and be well.
I signed up for your newsletter. It's a great newsletter, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
And you know, let's talk about that, because you have really, we actually met a long time ago at a PBS meeting, and you have had a wonderful following on PBS with public television stations. What has your message consistently been?
It's really simple. I want to empower people with the tools for self-care. Most of the chronic disease that we see in America today is best taken care of by the doctor in you, right? We have $2.8 trillion healthcare bill. 84% of it is for chronic disease. Most of that is caused by what we eat, how we live, our stress levels, whether we exercise, and our social connections and relationships. And if we can do something about that, we can shift the tide of this tsunami of chronic disease and cost burden that's coming down the highway at us. So I want to empower people with the tools for self-care, and it's based on a very simple model, which is called functional medicine. And it basically says this: it's the science of creating health. If you take out the bad stuff and you put in the good stuff, your body knows what to do. You don't have to treat all the diseases individually. Everything's connected. Food can both be the cause of disease and also the cure for most chronic disease. It has to be done the right way. And I think most Americans are eating a diet that's driving illness and driving depression and driving obesity and driving diabetes, and they don't have the right information. So I try to provide the right information based on the science of how we can actually create healthy humans. Most doctors didn't go to medical school and take a course that said, Healthy Human 101, here you go, right? So they learned about diseases instead of learning about how the body's operating system works. And that's really the underlying message. It's about functional medicine, which is how do you create a healthy, functioning human?
And you think most people in America have the capacity to do that?
Absolutely. I just met a trucker at this wonderful conference who read my book, Blood Sugar Solution, and he lost 110 pounds as a trucker on the road and dealt with food in a way that empowered him with some simple tools. He didn't go to the doctor, he didn't go to a hospital, he didn't go to a clinic, he didn't have bariatric surgery. He simply practiced some self-care tools that are based on some scientific principles of how to create health using the power of food as medicine. Food isn't just calories, it's actually information. So it talks to your genes, it talks to your cells. With every bite of food you take, you literally are transforming your biology, not over years or months, but literally over minutes, by changing your hormones with every bite, changing your brain chemistry with every bite, changing your immune system and what we call cytokines, which are the inflammatory markers in your body, and even changing what bacteria are growing in your gut, whether they're good or bad bacteria. For example, if you drink artificial soda, diet sweeteners, it changes the gut bacteria in such a way that causes diabetes and obesity. It's dramatic. And if you transplant those bacteria into a mice who's got no bacteria, that mice gains weight independent of calories. So the whole idea that calories are all the same, it's calories in, calories out, is really a false idea that I've written and talked a lot about. It's really about the quality of the food and the information of the food. So it's really about eating real, whole, fresh food.
And do you see, is there a trend for people to start going in that direction?
I think there is a food movement happening in America. It's hard. It's not reaching everywhere. There's a lot of food deserts. There's a lot of lack of information. I visited a family in the South here, and I'm working with a family in Florida right now where they're just massively obese, have no idea what to do, desperate to do the right thing. They're having the diet this and the light that and the low-fat this, and they're following all the media and the food industry guidelines about what they should be eating to lose weight and be healthy, but it's all industrial food products that are harmful. So by teaching them a few simple skills, they're actually able to lose huge amounts of weight. This family, and the 6 of them, they were very overweight. They lost 100 pounds in 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks?
And, well, not each one, but like together, that family lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
And I went and visited them at their house. They live in a little hobby farm. And I said, look, guys, you know, you used to have junk food and sodas, and, you know, what's it like? I mean, you're eating now, you know, nut butters and real food, and you open their fridge, it's full of avocados and vegetables. I said, is this more expensive than what you were eating? And they were like, no, not really, because we were each having like 10 Cokes a week. And now we don't have the soda bill. And we were going out to fast food restaurants, and we don't do that anymore. And so we're cooking and enjoying the time together and having fun and eating meals together, and it's reinvigorating our family and reconnecting us to each other. And it's actually building back the tools you need to create a healthy human.
Do you think that there really is the potential for a food revolution?
I do. I think it's going to be grassroots. I don't think it's going to come from the top down. I think it's going to come from the bottom up. I think it's going to come from each person's ability to take control of their own kitchen. Mm-hmm. We've outsourced our kitchens to corporations. We've outsourced our cooking to corporations. Food that we eat in this country is mostly made in a factory instead of in our kitchens. And then we've been convinced that it's expensive, that it takes a lot of time, that it's difficult, and that the food isn't as good. None of that is true. There's been extensive studies looking at the cost of eating real food isn't more expensive, that you can make healthy, simple meals in a very short amount of time. I've learned, I'm a very busy guy, but I cook fresh food, and I go shopping once a week, and I learned how to make 3 meals in 30 minutes flat.
Wow.
All, including each meal is like, not for 30 minutes each, but 3 meals in 30 minutes. Breakfast is 5 minutes, lunch is like 10 minutes, and dinner is about 20 minutes. And you can do it. It's really simple. I have a shake for breakfast, salad, throw a can of wild salmon or something, or sardines on the top, and some nuts, and just a quick salad for lunch. And then dinner is something, you can make a simple piece of chicken or fish, put on the grill, some sauteed or steamed vegetables. You can cook rice ahead of time, whatever you want. Simple meal, real food, and it has profound benefits, not just in terms of preventing disease, but helping you feel good now. Because most people don't care about like whether they're going to get a heart attack when they're 60. They want to know, am I going to feel good now? So people have more energy, they sleep better, their sex drive's better, their symptoms go away. It's pretty astounding.
You told a couple of stories today when you were talking, and I really appreciated the fact that you said a lot of folks just don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know how to prepare fresh foods.
That's right.
Because, we've gotten into such a habit of pulling something out of the freezer, popping it into the oven or micro. So how do you think we can reverse that? Do you have little tutorials? Do you have a cookbook?
Yes, absolutely. I think speaking of cookbooks, I imagine a lot of people watching this thought Betty Crocker was a real person, right?
Yeah.
I personally thought Betty Crocker, I'll admit it, was a real human that had a cookbook. She was a fiction invented by the food industry so they could create cookbooks with processed ingredients in them. Whether it was Velveeta cheese or Campbell's cream of mushroom soup or whatever the processed ingredient was, that was on the ingredient list. It wasn't a real food. And they gradually, over the last 50 years, have overtaken the American kitchen, and most Americans don't know how to cook. We've raised a couple of generations that don't know how to cook. Americans watch more cooking on television than they spend more time watching cooking on television than they do cooking themselves. So people say they don't have enough time, just stop watching the cooking.
Just stop watching and go do it.
And do it, right. And so I think the answer is really a little step of help. So I went to this family in South Carolina. They didn't know how to cut an onion.
At all?
No, they didn't have a cutting board or a knife, except for the knife used with your knife and fork. And you ever try to cut an onion with that, or a sweet potato with that? It's very hard, and we did it on a plate, but we did it. And then, I bought them cutting boards and knives because they needed to learn how to cook. And that's, it's like, it's a simple tool. We're basically 1 meal away from America being healthy. We're 1 meal away. If we were to able to teach cooking one meal to a family and teach them how to cook, it's not that complicated. But people are afraid of it, and they don't know how to do it. I say the doctors should throw off their white lab coats and put on white aprons and heal with meals.
Heal with meals, I like that. You also just shared a story about a guy who was a patient of yours, I think, who was busy and he just went through a restaurant drive-through every day at lunch to get a couple of hamburgers or whatever. Yeah. So you gave him some different advice about not driving through and eating in the car.
Well, what the advice was, he's like, I'm not going to change what I eat because I'm busy. I don't have time to make anything. This is my life. But you got to tell me how to lose weight and be healthy. I'm like, okay, well, you go ahead, eat your big Whoppers and do what you got to do. But I want you to go inside and I want you to consciously, mindfully eat them. I want you to taste it, chew every bite, smell it, enjoy it, savor it. And he came back and he was like, this tastes awful. I can't believe I was eating this. I was eating it completely unconsciously. So eating mindfully, being aware of what you're eating is important. And it's hard because we have had our taste buds hijacked by the food industry. It's food porn, what most of us eat. It's full of sugar, full of salt, full of things like MSG, which cause binge eating. So if Americans could do 3 things to radically transform their health, it would be 1, don't eat anything with high fructose corn syrup in it. 2, not because it's that much different from regular sugar, but because it's just in every processed thing, whether it's salad dressing or barbecue sauce. 2, don't eat anything with hydrogenated fats, because it's a toxic, dangerous fat that the FDA has regulated as not safe to eat. And 3, don't have anything with MSG, because it causes hunger and binge eating, and it's how they get rats to be fat for studies. And that's harder because it doesn't say MSG on the label. It has all sorts of sort of secret names like autolyzed yeast extract or hydrolyzed vegetable protein. So it might sound healthy, but in fact it's pretty nasty. So I want you to Google hidden names for MSG and keep that with you when you go shopping, and don't
buy those products,
no.
Right? So, but if you buy fresh foods, whole foods.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
then you take care.
Right,
you take care of that.
I mean, I basically say, eat stuff that doesn't have a label. If it has a nutrition facts label or an ingredient list on it, it's probably not real food. Now, it could be a can of sardines, or it could be, a jar of tomatoes, or it could be real food, but it should say tomatoes, water, salt, right? You should recognize all the ingredients. They shouldn't be in Latin. You should be able to pronounce them, right? You should recognize them, not some weird science project name that you can't even recognize.
So, okay, so you have a degree in Asian studies, right?
I do.
So how did that influence your current profession? Do you think that had a lot to do with you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, in study philosophy, which is how the world is made, it's asking the questions of why. How are things the way they are? Why is it the way it is? And when I began to look at the patterns in the universe of how things are designed and made, it was sort of set me up to understand medicine in a different way. Right now we have a failed medical system, which is costing twice as that of any other nation in the world, but producing results far below every other nation in the world. I think we're like, our life expectancy is next to Cuba, and that's like, they spend $100 a year on healthcare. We spend $8,000 or $9,000 per person. We're 11th out of 11 industrialized nations in healthcare metrics like life expectancy, infant mortality, and infant death, and maternal health. So we really are bad at delivering good quality health care. Yes, you can get really great care at great hospitals, and for emergency superhuman feats of saving people, yes. I used to be an ER doctor, great. Let's not give that away. But for most of the problems that most people have, it's not the solution. And so what we need to do is really rethink medicine and rethink disease to help deal with the root causes of it. And that's what this approach called functional medicine is. It really deals with that, and it's very powerful.
So you were at Canyon Ranch as their medical director?
Yep.
But then you left there and started your own? Okay, can you kind of explain that? Was there a real difference in the delivery?
Well, no. I mean, I think, my friend once said to me, look, if you've been somewhere for 10 years and you've succeeded, then you should do something else. And if you've done something for 10 years and you failed, you should do something else. So I was at Canyon Ranch for almost 10 years. We succeeded in creating a phenomenal program there of lifestyle medicine and functional medicine. And then I decided I wanted to do it on my own. And I created my own practice for 10 years. And I've been doing that. It's thriving and running. And now we just started a brand new center, because it's been 10 years, I have to do something else.
Right. Okay.
I started a brand new center for functional medicine at the Cleveland Clinic. And we're doing a very robust program of research, looking at the body as a whole system. And that's where Asian studies came in. It helped me see things as a system. And the new science of medicine is shifting from our reductionist model of diseases and looking at which organ it is in and what the symptoms are, to looking at the root cause and how everything's connected. It's called systems biology or systems medicine. And it's the future. You know, when you come into the doctor and you have a rash and a headache and some digestive symptoms and joint pain, they'll send you to 4 different doctors. The question we ask is why, and how are those things connected, and what's the root cause? And if you deal with that, it might be something you're eating, let's say, or gluten or whatever, then you deal with that and all those problems go away as a side effect of getting healthy. So it's a very different approach, and I've decided we need to do that at a major institution. So we've gone to Cleveland Clinic, where we're changing medical school education, we're changing the research paradigm, we're building a clinical program that's insurance-based, and we want to change reimbursement, because right now doctors get paid to do procedures and volume. Seeing more patients, they get, you know, more money. We want to get paid for outcomes. Do people get better and healthier? And how do we actually get paid for that, which is not now in the system?
No, it's not actually in the system. But you see that changing. If you're changing it on the medical school level, you have the opportunity to really change it, right?
Yeah, we're working at all. We're trying to do everything. It's ambitious. It's ambitious. It's big. It's bold, but it needs to get done, because healthcare is a big ship that needs to get turned. So we're trying to be a Trojan horse going into the system and showing how we can do this, proving that the dollars work and people get better.
Now, growing up in your family, was there a real focus on healthcare, on healthy eating, on?
You know, I was born in Spain. My family, you know, grew up in New York City. And my mother and father went to Europe after the war, and they lived in Europe and Vienna and Munich and Barcelona, where I was born. And in Europe, everything was fresh. You went to the market every day. I don't think they had refrigerators, I don't know, back then. And they just ate real fresh food. And so my mother cooked real fresh food. And my grandmother always used to say, buy fresh, eat fresh. She'd go to the local market in New York City and get the chicken, and then my mother would have to pluck the pheasant and chicken. So there was a culture in my family of eating real food. And when I grew up, even in the suburbs, you know, my mother had a little garden in the backyard. Instead of a lawn, she had a garden, and we had tomatoes and cucumbers and zucchini, and we had fruit trees. And so I was really used to the earth providing real food. And I think most of us don't have a connection with our food anymore. We don't have a connection with where it comes from. We don't understand that a tomato, you know, what a tomato looks like or what kind of plant it grows on. And so I think it's really important. I taught that to my kids. So I can tell from the seedling what kind of plant it is, what kind of vegetable it is.
You know, I heard a report not long ago that a tomato typically travels like 1,500 miles.
Yeah.
If you don't go buy one from your local farmer or grow one yourself.
Yeah, and it tastes like it does.
Yeah.
Right? It tastes like it doesn't. If you ever tasted a real tomato right off the vine that's ripened, it's a totally different experience. And not only that, the quality of the ingredients and the nutrients in that tomato is far more healthful than what you get that's shipped. It's like a tomato-like thing.
Tomato-like thing. So you're here at World Peace Day, how do you feel about your experience here at Isha, and maybe this similar message?
Well, you know, there are beacons of light in the world, and I think Isha is a beacon of light where there are messages of hope, peace, love, and connection to each other that really are happening and need to be spoken, and about consciousness. How do we be more conscious of how we treat our bodies, of how we deal with our relationships, of how we care for ourselves? So to me, peace starts there. It starts at home, it starts in yourself, it starts with those relationships you're in. If you start to change those, it sort of creates a ripple effect.
What do you think is the true power of food?
What do I think is the true power of food?
What is the true power?
I think food is the most powerful drug on the planet. It works faster, better, and cheaper than any medication. It has almost no side effects. It has the ability to, in moments, to change your gene expression, alter your hormones beneficially or harmfully if it's the wrong food, improve your immune system, change your gut. It's a powerful lever for changing your health. The problem is that most of the food we're eating is not real food. It's food-like substances or factory-made science projects. And so the time is really here for us to change our relationship to food, to understand it as one of the most powerful tools we have in our arsenal to change our health and change the world. Because it doesn't only affect our own health. When we eat industrial factory farm food, we are destroying the earth. We're depleting the soils. We're using petrochemicals, pesticides, and fertilizers that are running off into oceans and rivers and destroying the rivers and the oceans. So we're creating 1/5 of our entire energy utilization is for using to grow agricultural products, animals and plants. So we're using industrial agriculture, and it's energy dependent. It's more energy than is used for all cars, trucks, planes, transportation combined. So, and that creates enormous climate change. Methane from cow, whatever, actually is 53 times as strong in terms of producing greenhouse gases as carbon dioxide. So we are creating a huge mess, literally.
Growing up in the South, there are foods that are comfort foods for me, and they're hard to give up.
Like what?
Oh, like fried squash and fried corn.
Like deep fried?
Well, pan-fried.
Pan-fried's okay.
Well,
if you put a big thick breading on it, you stick it in a fryer, that's not great.
Well,
but fried, pan-fried is fine.
It's all right. So
fat's not bad for you, by the way. It's the sugar that's bad for you.
The sugar, because that's a big one, right?
Yep, that's a huge one.
Because it's addictive and
huge.
So sugar. Okay, so you think that within any culture, you can take those foods that maybe even are not prepared so healthy.
Oh yeah, I have a cookbook.
And you can fix that.
Yeah,
right?
we have a cookbook. It's called we got unfried chicken.
Well, there you go.
So you can actually make it and coat it and bread it with nuts and flax seeds and wonderful things. You can bake it in the oven. It tastes just like fried chicken.
Really?
Well, it's not as gross.
Well, we are
I think if you actually kind of see how you feel and check in with yourself after you eat that. I occasionally will go off the rails and eat something and I go, wow, when you feel good and then you eat something that makes you feel bad, you notice it. If you just eat like that all the time, you feel bad all the time. So you don't realize that there's a connection. That's why I encourage people to sort of detox. And I wrote a book called The 10-Day Detox Diet, which gives people 10 days to reset. And I invite people to do it because most people in their life have never really done a complete reset in 10 days and see how good they can feel. It doesn't take a long time.
So what are some of the things you do if you detox? What's
you
something
get rid of the bad stuff, you put in the good stuff. So you eat fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, you eat good quality protein, and you basically cut out all the processed food and all the sugar, sodas and junk food and common inflammatory foods like gluten and dairy, which can be problems for some people, not everybody, but some people. And then you actually start to sort of see what happens. And the first few days are hard, and after that, people start to feel amazing. We had 600 people do it. Not only did they lose 4,000 pounds, not only did their blood sugars drop an average of 20 points and their blood pressure 10 points, but they had a symptom reduction of 62% as a whole. That means migraines, asthma, irritable bowel, sleep problems, depression, joint pain, fatigue, whatever symptoms we scored, were like a whole list of medical symptoms we track, 62% reduction in all symptoms. There's no drug on the planet that can do that. That's how powerful food is. I had one guy told me, he said he did it in 10 days, his cholesterol dropped 100 points, his triglycerides dropped 300 points, his asthma he had for years went away, and his reflux, he was taking 4 packs of Rolaids a day, completely gone.
Wow. Is he staying on it?
Staying on it, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Then you can kind of modify it a little bit. And then he ate something, and he goes, well, I didn't feel so good. So then you get to see actually how you feel.
All right, so you also worked on something with some other folks that people would recognize, the Daniel Project?
The Daniel Plan.
Yes, the Daniel Plan. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went to Haiti after the earthquake, and I realized that, and I met a man named Paul Farmer, and he had a program where he cured TB and AIDS, not through better drugs or surgery, but by the power of what he called accompaniment, where we accompany each other to health. And he created community health workers that went from house to house and helped people take their medications, do what they needed to get healthy, dealt with the social conditions that were driving disease. And I realized, you know what? A lot of chronic disease, like obesity, diabetes, heart disease, these are social diseases, and they need a social cure. And we actually can help each other. And that getting healthy is actually a team sport. Then one day, Rick Warren comes to my office as a patient to get healthy, and I said, tell me about your church. And he said, I've got 30,000 members. I said, wow. He said, I've got 5,000 groups that meet every week in a small group. I said, that's not a mega church, that's thousands of mini churches. And those small groups help people live better lives. But I said, why don't we put a healthy living program through those groups and see what happens based on functional medicine? And we use the principles in the blood sugar solution and functional medicine. We thought a few hundred people would show up. And he was like, this is a great idea, because we were baptizing our church last week. And I was, after about the 600th one, I'm like, man, we're a fat church. And I'm fat, and we need to do something. And the average weight for women was 170, and the average weight for men was 210 in the church.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big church in many ways. So
Yeah.
he said, sure. And we sort of thought a few hundred people would show up. We had a rally. In the first rally, 15,000 people signed up for the program. Mm-hmm. They lost 250,000 pounds in a year. And it wasn't a disease treatment program. It was a getting healthy program. And we have 5 principles: faith, food, fitness, focus, and friends. And we realized that friend power is far better than willpower, that the social component was huge, and that people who did it together lost twice as much weight as those who did it alone. And that we created a model for churches around the country to do this. We created the Daniel Plan book, as well as a cookbook and a whole curriculum, even a guide for pastors with sermons on how to implement this in their congregations. So we actually are creating a nationwide campaign to enroll churches all around the country, and I'm working with churches in Atlanta and Cleveland and all over the country to actually help to implement this model so that we can get people healthy where they live. Because most of health does not happen in the doctor's office, right? There's 5,756 hours in a year, I think, more or less, do the calculator. Right. And how many of those do you spend in a doctor's office? Yeah. A couple? In the hospital? Right. Most of the health happens where we live, where we eat, where we play, where we learn, where we work, and where we pray. That's where health happens, outside the hospital. So we need to go to where the action is.
All right, you know what? We're out of time. I could talk to you for hours, but I'm going to go. You're very engaged in social media. You have a great Facebook page, and you've got newsletters. So I just encourage our folks to tune in.
drhyman.com.
That's right. Say it again.
drhyman.com.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thank you very much.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.